first time we were hit with an IED. Every time we went on mission, every time we left the wire after that, it's there in the back of your mind. It's real now. And if someone tells you that they were, they served, that they deployed and they were overseas and they were in these situations, if they were not scared, if they're telling you that, then they're either crazy or they're lying.
Courage under fire. Overcoming overwhelming fear through the personal story of a true American hero who survived IED bombings, rockets meant to kill American soldiers landing yards away from him in the service of our nation, our fellow Americans, and our freedoms. I am Robert Asencio, and beside me I have the pleasure of having my co-host, retired police chief and military historian, David Magnusson. And together, we have the privilege of introducing National Gymnast, U.S. Military Bronze Star recipient, Gulf War Navy veteran, former Florida State Representative, turned author, and friend, Adam Hattersley. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Hope everyone's doing well in Miami. Sorry I can't be there in person.
So, Adam, let's get right into it. Before we start, I want to point out that a Bronze Star recipient is a soldier who has been awarded the Armed Forces Decoration for either heroic achievement, heroic service, or meritorious action in combat. And you, sir, are a recipient, and for that, thank you for your service. So, Adam, let's talk about this overcoming overwhelming fear. And I like to work backwards here. Let's go to your service on the ground where you were in a Humvee and you experienced the blast of not just one, but two IEDs.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it was 3 IEDs, 2 separate occasions, 2 one day, one another day. But I think we talked about this a little bit before. When I first got to Iraq, I volunteered and I went with an army unit. When we first started going out on mission, yeah, you're a little nervous, but everybody felt pretty invincible until something happened. And that first time something happened, the first time we were hit with an IED, every time we went on mission, every time we left the wire after that, it's there in the back of your mind. It's real now. And I've said to friends and here and in politics, if someone tells you that they were, they served, that they deployed and they were overseas and they were in these situations, if they were not scared, if they're telling you that, then they're either crazy or they're lying. And I've no problem admitting whatsoever that it is terrifying. I absolutely felt that kind of fear, but without fear to overcome, there can't be any bravery or any courage. It doesn't take courage to go across the street and pick up the mail because there's no fear, there's no danger. But being in those situations where there is fear, choosing to push through and still do your job and still complete the mission, that's where courage is shown. Because you can pick one or two routes. You can either succumb to the fear and kind of lay down and let the mission go and not go, or you can overcome that fear and rally with your team and go out and complete your mission.
What do you say we talk about that fear, what you experienced, and the thought process that you continue that drives you, and basically to fight on?
There's a lot behind that, and I know, Mag, being a military historian, I'm sure you've read about this a lot. A lot of times when units are overseas, you're not necessarily, everyone says, I'm there for my country. I'm there to serve my country. Like, I'm there to complete the mission. Really, when you're there on the ground, you're there to protect your teammates. And that motivation was a big factor of helping to overcome that fear, because you're not doing it in a vacuum. You're not there alone. you're there with others who are experiencing the same thing that rely on you, and that you also rely on to get you all through the day together, as safe as possible. You're all overcoming that fear together. You're all in it as one. So you can kind of feed off each other and each other's bravery and each other's courage, and look inside how your own fear is affecting you, and hopefully you can see the example of your leaders, your peers, your subordinates, and see their example of how they're overcoming their fear to kind of fuel you to overcome your fear as well. It would have been a lot harder to get through without those other folks that I was there with.
Would you say bravery then is contagious?
It absolutely can be, and so can fear.
Sure.
It's if you're on a mission, and if one person breaks, then it's just going to be more likely for the next person to break. But if something's going on and somebody steps up and shows that overcoming of fear and shows that courage, it's a little easier for you to do it as well. So yeah, it can go both ways.
Right.
Because team turns into peer support. Is that what drives the forces, the troops, to continue to do heroic acts beyond paralysis?
I would say it's a huge part of it. Like I said, it would be nearly impossible to be out there and complete your mission without that team there supporting you. And if you watch some of these documentaries or movies, especially about World War I, World War II, Vietnam, if you read the citations of people who have been awarded, like the Medal of Honor, our nation's highest decoration, 95% of the time it's for doing something to save a fellow service member, and that is a major motivation whenever you're in these situations. Because if it's just you and there's 27 bad guys and we're all shooting at you, it's easy to just succumb to that fear and hide. But if it's you and 5 of your buddies and there's that, and they're getting shot at as well, there's that motivation there to do what's right and do what's best for the team, to help protect them, to help your buddies. So yeah, it's a big factor of it. Not just overseas, but when I was stationed on a submarine, when I was stationed teaching at the Naval Academy, doing things as a team is just as vitally important. And I know there's a big part of this podcast about the silent struggle. And when you come home, you have to remember that you still have a team. You didn't leave, even if you left those individuals at a different base or a different unit, especially when you're in the military or in law enforcement or as a first responder, there are other people on your team that you can go to for that support.
This entire discussion is fascinating, talking about rising to the occasion.
Yeah.
Rising to the occasion, when mere mortals probably wouldn't, although it's the mere mortals that rise to the occasion and become great as a result of it.
What is it, fight or flight? Adam, let's talk a little bit about you. Give the audience a better sense of who you are, right? I think we've given them a lot, but there's more to this young man who sits before us talking to us. You obtained your master's in engineering. Was it engineering?
Aerospace engineering, yes.
Aerospace and engineering. You joined the Navy and became a naval officer, lieutenant, which for Army correlations, captain, right? In the
Yes.
Army, right, equal rank to a captain. You were an officer on a nuclear submarine.
That's right.
You taught at the Naval Academy. You're a national gymnast champion. Man, for anybody that doesn't know, to be selected to, first of all, to get a degree in nuclear aerospace engineering, you have to be super smart. But to be selected to be part of a nuclear team, you have to be up there in the top percentile of your class and your peers. So you have paid your way through sacrifice, gifted intelligence, earned intelligence, and you're serving our nation. And man, the experiences that you had and the experiences that you're sharing, I think relate to everyday people because we all experience fear. And I think that a lot of people in our communities today are paralyzed by fear of life. And if anybody can speak to this, it's you, my friend. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. We wanted to have you on the show because you mentioned something to us in the pre-interview conversation that we had. Let's see. Let me see if I get this right. Frame it up here. You're walking through a compound and rockets are landing or mortars, bombs are freaking landing yards away from you.
Mm-hmm.
The average person freezes. Yet the thought that you share with us, I'd like you, if you're willing to, please share. You know, you either stay or you walk. Man, that takes an exceptional human being to go
Well,
through
there was
that.
definitely some hesitation. Like, it went off, the first mortar round. I don't know. It was a little farther than you said, maybe about 100 yards, 100 meters. But you don't know where the next, excuse me, where the next one's going to land. And you can either freeze and take your chances, or you can continue on what you're doing, where you're headed, where your mission is, despite where these things are landing. That's one thing that we had been briefed on, that we knew that these incoming mortars would be sporadic and random. So it sounds really kind of crazy, but one spot is just as good as another. But it was in the path between me and where I had to go. So really, you just had to stop and think for just maybe a half a second, and remember all these briefings. It's going to be random. It's going to be sporadic. It could land there. It could land right next to me. If I walk right now, it could land where I was standing. So you just have to kind of take that knowledge and use that to overcome that fear and continue on. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a mortar explode whatever 100 feet from you. It's scary, but you can just go to your base instincts, like you said, and the fight or flight. Most scenarios, people are like, well, I'm gonna hit the deck, or I'm gonna try to run and find cover. But falling back on the knowledge that we had of what to expect from these things, you can use that to overcome that natural fear to continue on. So yeah, only the couple of times it happens, you see these things go off, and you remember. It sounds cliche, but you remember your training, and you continue on.
Thoughts?
I mean, you go back World War I, right? 1917, we get over there to Europe, and we're untested. We're walking around like proud peacocks. They're going through the French villages where the people have gone through it with Belgium, right? So they're untested, but they rose to the occasion. They rose to the occasion under General Pershing at the Battle Woods. They fought the Germans head on. They actually, in memoirs later, the Germans complimented the American prowess on that first battle, but over the top. Think of the courage going over the top, running headlong into machine gun fire. I mean, the Belgians, the Germans, the French were all doing that. But what made somebody do that? Because if you stop to think about it, you wouldn't do it. I mean, you're just running headlong. So that bravery is transcended. If we step out of the military realm, the bravery in law enforcement, the old cliche where everybody's running the other way, law enforcement's running into it. So let's take the active shooters. There have been incidents where the actions weren't taken, and there have been some. Most of the time, there's actions taken where it's beyond brave. And there's different categories. It's not an IED, it's not a mortar fire, but bullets are flying. It's different braveries. It's maybe that person that's a champion gymnast that gets terribly hurt, that has to get back up on the balance beam again, or on the rings.
There's a high bar. Yeah.
On the high bar. Maybe you want to go to that because that's a phenomenal story too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about that. And that's a thing. It's not just in the military or law enforcement or first responders where you can see people overcoming fear. It can be every day, people overcoming their fears. I got into a couple of pretty bad wrecks in the gym. I was a gymnast for 20 years, competed at the University of Michigan, and as Robert mentioned, I was a member of the 1999 NCAA national championship team. Believe it or not, I'm still actually an international judge to this day. There's one day in the gym where I won't get into exactly how it happened because it's a long explanation, but I got hurt pretty bad. I shattered every bone in the left side of my face. These are all plates. Broke my nose in 8 or 9 spots. That's why it's crooked. And some other injuries, I guess. Took 4, 5, 6 months to recover, and even going through Iraq, even going through some gunfights and IEDs, getting back up on that high bar to do the skill that I hurt myself on for the first time after coming back is one of the scariest moments of my life. But like I said, it wasn't just me in the gym; it was our whole team.
Right.
Were there, to cheer me on, to show that support, to help me overcome that fear. And I wasn't the only one who got hurt. We had guys. I saw a guy, his femur came shooting out his leg in the gym, and when he came back to start to do the same skill that he hurt himself on so catastrophically, the courage that it took for him to get back up and do that is incredible. He man, and the courage he showed when that injury happened is one of the bravest things I've ever seen.
So let's talk about that moment that you decide has to be a conscious effort, that you're going to get back on the saddle, as they say. You're going to get back into the thick of it. You have your fear, you're apprehensive. You just go for it.
Pretty much. I mean, in your training, in your recovery, you have a plan. So tomorrow's the day. Today's the day. When you wake up, you're like later on at practice day, and you're thinking about it all day and building it up in your mind, and you're scared all day. And I'll even admit, like, every time I did that skill for the rest of my career was scary. And another skill, I broke 2 vertebrae in my back, and getting back and doing that same skill again, and they were both in the same on the same event in the same routine. So it was overcoming that fear every single turn of every single day. In the gym 3, 4, 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And it never got less scary. But again, the whole team is there and there to support you, and you've been training, and you just have to work up and continuously work at overcoming that fear. It's not a one and done. It's not like, oh, I've done this one time now, so I'm never going to be afraid again. Not at all. It's going to be a recurring theme in your life of overcoming this on a daily basis.
Well, I think we discussed it before, but it's worth bringing up again, talking about the realm of courage and how fear is okay. It is good to motivate you with fear, just as long as you can overcome it. So arguably the best fighter in the history of boxing, and it could be a debate with some people, I suppose, Sugar Ray Robinson said this: when you stop getting nervous before a fight, quit, because you're crazy.
Yeah, certainly not like the movies where you see a person go into gun battle without any care, right? I think fear keeps us alive. I think fear is a healthy emotion. It's just controlling it and having the discipline to control it. And when it's overtaking your life, then seeking help. Adam, you point to your team, but that, again, I can't say it enough. It's reflective of what we're now calling peer support.
Correct.
And known as peer support. And you said something that really resonated with me. It resonated with me when you first said it, and I still think about it. Where prior to, I guess, experiencing, in your case, the first blast of the IED as you're in a Humvee, and you're impacted by, which I'm sure you felt the concussion. You see colleagues, fellow teammates injured. You mentioned about that feeling of pre-event invincibility, and then during the event and after the event, recognizing that we're not invincible. That sticks with me.
And when we were getting ready to come home from Iraq after our year there, the new unit that rolled in to replace us, we saw the same, I'm not going to say foible, but the same feeling that we had when we first got there. You know, they came in with a lot of bravado and a lot of, hey, we're ready to go. Let's go out. Let's go on mission. You know, and some of us who had been there for a year, like, well, just be careful. Remember your training. We're gonna, you know, you're gonna come with us the first couple times. You need to take this. You know, everybody obviously took it extremely seriously, but you know, that feeling of bravado, like you said, that feeling of invincibility until something happens. You know, and then after something first time happen, you know, there's always going to be, you know, some fear, no matter behind that sense of invincibility. Like I was never comfortable, you know, outside the wire. But it's a whole different ballgame once kind of reality sets in. You know, hopefully for a lot of folks, they've never had to, especially when deployed overseas like that on the ground. I would hope as many people as possible never had that kind of wake up and never lost that sense of invincibility, because, you know, then, you know, you had a smooth deployment, you know, but you can't rely on that. But yeah, it's that kind of reality moment that you see sometimes, you know. But, you know, it's just like if somebody was in a nasty car accident and, you know, they're in the hospital and they recover, and it's the first time they drive on the highway again, they're gonna be scared. But just that act of overcoming that fear is that courage that we see on a daily basis that people don't even recognize that they're seeing. You know, it's just when you see it in movies and in TV shows, people are like, oh, okay, I can recognize bravery. You know, when you see a guy like Mag said, you know, in World War I going over the top in the trench, which is insane. But there's smaller acts of courage and bravery that we witness every day that we don't even realize. And, you know, sometimes we have to be ready to recognize that individual bravery that we see in people day after day after day, even if we don't understand the motivation behind it.
The greatest fear, they say, is the fear of speaking publicly. But yeah, you have people that they're shaking the night before they have to, I mean, shaking, but then they muster that courage. Remember, it's a battle. Is it what was going on in over in Europe or over in Iraq? No. But to that person, it's a battle that needs to get conquered.
This show will not be a benefit to anyone unless we can help others. What message do we send to anyone that's out there struggling, Adam?
You're not alone. You know, here, and I'm in the Tampa area. We have the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. I can find their number. We could find it and put it up later. But they have a specific group of volunteers that are veterans, and one of the first questions that they ask any caller, especially to the suicide hotline, is, are you a veteran, and do you want to speak to another veteran? There are resources there, so you don't have to go through this alone. You know, veterans have a higher per capita suicide rate. Veterans have a higher per capita homelessness rate. And a lot of times people are trying to struggle through these things alone. And the big message is, you are not alone, and you don't have to do this alone. You have brothers and sisters in arms who have the same experiences that you can talk to, that can help you find the courage to get through.
Yeah, speak to someone. Absolutely. I mean, that's it. You're not alone. That is the mantra. You're not alone. And to guide people to take that, there's always going to be a first step to everything. To take that first step, that 1,000-mile journey, that first step is to get to the resources, make the call. Doesn't get easy, but it's certainly a heck of a lot easier than if you don't do anything and you wallow in whatever's dragging you down that battle again, where you're taking incoming fire and you don't know which way to turn.
So true. And let's not forget about our families, because we do put our families through hell, especially when we don't speak about it.
Correct.
As we were discussing, I experienced that. Guys, I can't thank you enough. I hope we have an opportunity to speak again about additional topics that are related, that can help others. I'd love to have you on again, Adam. We'd love to have you as part of a bigger larger conversation with others.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you.
Any final thoughts for the audience?
I think we covered a lot of it. The big message, and if it's something military, is it something law enforcement, or is it something just overcoming an internal fear that you have? Just the fear is not a bad thing. There is no bravery without fear and overcoming of fear. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be nervous of. Well, I mean, you're going to be nervous, but it's nothing to be like to shy away from. You can't show that bravery, that courage, unless there is fear. So don't be ashamed of fear, especially when you're able to overcome it, because then you're being courageous, you're being brave. And you can see it in the small acts every day. It doesn't have to be a big act like you see in the movies. It can be a small thing showing that bravery. And yeah, just don't give up on yourself, and reach out and talk to somebody if you need help. And like Mag said, that journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step, and sometimes reaching out is that first step, and it can change your whole outlook on life.
So, lastly, I mentioned you were an author. Would you mind plugging your book so that people can find out more about you and learn more about you? Because I think it's an interesting book.
Yeah, I think I have a copy right here. Actually, it's called Accidental Politician. It's available on Amazon, both Kindle and hard copy. It's about my 2018 state house race, which I wasn't supposed to win. We flipped a district by 12 points with no help. It was just my wife and I, and just kind of that journey. And also, if anyone's interested in getting involved in public service in a political or elected office type way, it's kind of a real life journey and descriptor of what you got to do to get elected.
Outstanding. Yeah, we have been speaking with former state representative, military veteran, Navy veteran, a Gulf War veteran, a Bronze Star recipient, national gymnast champion, Adam Hattersley. I think our country, and we certainly owe you a debt of gratitude for your sacrifice and your service with honor. It's been a privilege to have you on. To the Millers, Michael Grant Miller, the Miami's Community News Team, our producer behind the scenes, Ray Shell, we can't thank you enough. You, the audience. Look forward to speaking with you next time. David, want to close it out?
One heck of a show, an American hero. It's been an honor to be here and talking to him.
See you next time.